So today, we just got the brand new Nintendo Direct, which was basically about the Switch 1's final games of its life cycle. And I gotta admit, I was not expecting to see Metroid Prime 4 in this Direct, but I was pleasantly surprised, and it was a beautiful trailer to say the least. And if you haven't seen it for yourself, please go check it out, as a link to the trailer is in the video's description. After you've seen it, come back here, and I'll break it down for you. So let's get into it. One thing you might quickly notice is that Samus has an additional eye above her visor. Note that she did not have this eye yet on the original Metroid Prime 4 trailer, which tells me that this current trailer on Vuros takes place after that initial trailer. Now just a little later into the trailer, we see Samus scanning an object of a statue of what's called an ancient Lamorne. My guess is that the Lamornes will probably be playing a similar role to the Luminoth in Metroid Prime 2, as basically the planet's inhabitants that serve as your guide. This scan here tells us that the eye on this statue is a representation of Psychic Mode, which is why Samus has the eye on her head, because she's already obtained that ability. So from what I can tell, there's a distress signal on the Galactic Federation. Samus responds to the scene, and then something epic goes down with Sylux, who we know hates Samus and the Federation. Then shortly after that, Samus heads to Vuros. The narrator in the trailer says that Samus was unexpectedly transported to Vuros, but later on, he describes that she was summoned. So I think it's fair to assume that this conflict between her and Sylux was the result of that. Now pretty much, all of the gameplay in this trailer is on Vuros, which I think is just going to be the connecting overworld to pretty much everything else, like Talon Overworld in Metroid Prime 1 or Agon Wastes in Metroid Prime 2. From what I can tell, everything we're seeing from the game looks like it's pretty early on, because at most, Samus has 2 additional energy tanks. I really like the detail that we can now see Samus touching her visor as she's scanning various objects. One of the things that made the Prime trilogy so special was the attention to detail both graphically and with its storytelling. So it's nice to see that scanning and learning various lores are going to play a major role once again. Something else that's interesting is when Samus takes out this obstruction. Notice how different her power beam is from the older Metroid Prime games. Now, it almost looks like it's been infused with a wave beam from Metroid Prime 1. When we look at the first trailer for Metroid Prime 4, her power beam is the same as it's always been. So this change to his purple aura seems to be a natural result from her acquiring her psychic abilities. Another indication of that is the difference in color in her suit, as you can clearly see the difference in this side-by-side shot, as she has green accents before and purple accents after. Now on to the next scene, and it's simply, wouldn't be a Metroid game if Samus wasn't committing mass genocide against the planet's natural inhabitants. All these enemies look great, and look like your typical Metroid baddies. I gotta say, on this freeze frame, how freaking cool is this backdrop? I can't wait to see what this game looks like up close when it's running on my Switch 2. Again, notice how Samus only has the capacity of 10 missiles at this point. So as I said before, this is only the very beginning stages of the game. In the grand scheme of things, Nintendo has still showed us hardly anything from this game, and I find that incredibly exciting. So in this shot, Samus appears to be getting her psychic abilities for the very first time, and based on the background atmosphere, it does look like she gets the ability on Vuros. Meaning that when the trailer starts and we see Samus spawning in with the ability already acquired, this is not her first time visiting the planet in this game. Now the psychic abilities look sick, and I'm really looking forward to messing around with it and testing its capabilities. Now a very minor complaint / concern is that all the doors and passageways look more natural in their environments. And yeah, that does make sense, but I'll be pretty bummed if we're officially done with the iconic blue, red, and green doors among other colors. It probably sounds silly to someone who didn't grow up playing Metroid, but man, the iconic and unique doors that can only be opened with certain weapons and items have always been a staple of the franchise, so it would just bum me out a bit if they're not in here. Now once again, we see the psychic abilities in action, as the narrator asks why these abilities were bestowed upon Samus. If I had to guess, it's probably similar to Metroid Prime 1. This time, instead of the Chozo, it's the Lamorne that see Samus as their savior, and aid her in their quest to defeat the enemy. In the very next scene in the trailer, a Lamorne does welcome Samus and refer to her as the Chosen One, giving even more credibility to this theory. Then in the next scene, we see this beautiful hall, which tells me that this is probably a Lamorne sanctuary of some sorts, especially since Samus was just welcomed in the previous scene. Based on the architecture and structures, my guess is that Samus is inside of this building at the end of the bridge. This looks like the Lamorne sanctuary. Then we see some Morph Ball goodness. Then we see Samus using her psychic abilities on what looks like it could be a portal. Maybe it's some kind of wormhole, fast travel, or time traveling device. Again, I've talked about this in previous videos. I think there's some evidence that time travel could be an aspect of this game. But in this trailer so far, we're yet to see anything that confirms or denies that. But stay tuned. Then we see a couple of quick shots of stuff that's really tough to make any guesses on. Then we quickly see a Metroid, or rather a Mocktroid, which we did see surrounding Sylux in the first trailer. And based on the backdrop of this Mocktroid, I think it's pretty safe to say that this shot is back at the Galactic Federation research facility. I have no idea what this is, but it looks beautifully disgusting in a very Metroid way. Now this is presumably an enemy because he doesn't look very friendly. I think this is a space pirate, but man, this just really looks like a pissed off elite from Halo. This next shot has a boss or mini-boss named Carvex, and I'm definitely getting some Flagra vibes from this one. At this point, Samus has acquired a second energy tank, so this is definitely a little later in the game. My guess is that this is the boss of the Lamorne Temple/Sanctuary area. The narrator then says the threats intertwining between space and time. To me, this is a total confirmation that time travel, or at the very least, time manipulation, will be an aspect of this game. Again, I think we're probably done with the actual Metroid Prime and Dark Samus. But if time travel is an aspect of this installment, then there is technically a way where Dark Samus can become a threat yet again. Who knows, maybe that was Sylux's plan after all. For goodness sake, he was stalking Samus the instant she defeated Dark Samus in Metroid Prime 3. Then we see the logo as we hear a Lamorne say in their native language, "We place our faith in you, Chosen One." Notice how it says coming in 2025. Well, we already knew that. And I do think it's interesting that we didn't get an exact date after the second trailer. Personally, I think that's because Nintendo didn't want to spoil the release date, and that's probably because it shares the same release date as the Switch 2. Once the Switch 2 Direct drops on April 2nd, then they'll probably have no issues telling us the release date of Metroid Prime 4. Then to close out the trailer, we see a really crazy looking room, where Samus is getting her new sleek looking suit. The color scheme on this thing is just gorgeous. My wild guess is that this suit has some very specific time manipulation abilities, but honestly, who knows? So overall, this whole trailer looked amazing, and there is a lot to dissect. And if there's anything I missed, please let me hear about it in the comment section below. I am super hyped, and I love the fact that as much as we saw, it's pretty clear that it was all from the beginning stages of the game, with maybe the exception of her new suit. So what do you guys think? Did the new trailer satisfy your Metroid appetite? I look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comment section below. Thanks for watching as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more Metroid and Zelda content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.